Hello and welcome back to another AutoPot IG Live. My name is Manny, and today we have Chris on from Xtreme Gardening. He's going to be talking about the company, some of their flagship products, and how they are best used with the AutoPot system. Just give me one moment. Let me grab Chris. Hold on. All right, you should be with us in just a moment. Chris, what's up,
How we
man?
doing, Manny?
How's it
How we doing?
going? Good, good,
Good.
good.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for
having me
doing
on.
this, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do appreciate it. Yeah, yeah. Listen, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know we are doing a giveaway today on this IG Live. We're going to be giving away a four-pot system with some samples of mycos and azos. In order to win this or be eligible to win, what you have to do is go to AutoPot Garden _ USA. That's AutoPot Garden _ USA. That's our new IG page for growing vegetables and more lawn and garden side of things. Go on there. The most recent post, just comment on that post and give and tag 3 friends on there, and we will be picking a winner here by the end of this IG Live. So again, man, thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
I
no
know
worries.
these things can be a little tough. I get a little weird on these IG Lives myself. So
First time for me hopping on one of these. I do plenty of PowerPoint presentations over
right.
Zoom and such, so it can't be too much different.
That's generally my life too. I know we were just talking about that, but listen, we'll get right into it, man. And I will say I've been excited for this because this is a subject that I like a lot. And I've seen the power of using beneficial microbes in our system. I'll tell you a quick story. So I always see I see G around, right,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll always bless me with a very generous sample of
Mm-hmm.
product, you know.
Yeah.
So I was potting up my peppers because I grow a bunch of peppers in my backyard every
Mm-hmm.
year, and I have 2 XXL pots. So I was potting up these 2 yellow T-Rex, and I ran out of mycos and azos after the first pot. So one
Mm-hmm.
pot was inoculated and one pot was not. And I kid you not, bro, because I just harvested them now. One plant is a good third bigger,
Yeah.
stretched out, and way more pods on it. So like it was evident to me right there. And it was like took me a second to realize like what is the difference between these two? And it was that. It was like my very last bit of azos and mycos. And I used it on that pot, and then like a week and a half later I planted the next pot. So I see it. I see it all the
So
time, man, with our
unintentional side by side.
correct, correct. I should send you guys the pictures.
Please do.
But yeah, so so just get into it, man. If you don't mind, if you could give me just everybody maybe a little background on yourself and on Xtreme Gardening and like kind of your roots, and what you guys try to accomplish with your products.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm Chris Hausworth. I've been with the company for about 7.5 years now. Got promoted to sales manager 4 or 5 months ago. Been having a blast working with G out east, and then we got Randall, who technically was Pacific Northwest, but he's really got everything minus California on this side of the Rockies. Yeah, it's the company's been around since '93. As far as the parent company, we've been producing the mycorrhizae for a very long time. Had a lot of time to perfect and really lock in the best way to produce the product in quantity, but continuing to have the quality and have it at a reasonable price for people. But yeah, Xtreme's been around for 15 years now as the more retail division of the company. Um, Everything from the giant pumpkin growers to the home gardeners to commercial. I mean, we've really covered all of it. I've actually been blown away with how much of the giant vegetable community we've been hearing from this year. Last
Hmm.
week I was out in Cleveland, and the amount of customers coming up talking about their record pumpkins for their county, for their state, our DMs and our emails have been blowing up with a lot of them too. So it's not the normal customers we deal with, but who doesn't want to talk about 300 plus pound watermelons, 2,000 plus pound pumpkins and such. So, but yeah, we've been producing the biology for a really long time. One of the largest manufacturers of mycorrhizal inoculants in the world. And yeah, it's we've got great products. They're all done in house, and they're organic and work very well. And like you said, it's not just a bunch of snake oil or some weird stuff. It's products that you actually see results with because it is all science backed products.
No doubt, no doubt. So speaking to that a bit, these beneficials, why are they so important to plants? Like, what is going on, maybe in layman's terms?
Yeah, I mean, basically between, especially just on Mycos and Azos being our two main products that we've been pushing for a long time, they're basically just maximizing the root zone and the plant's capabilities for uptake. So Azos, being a nitrogen fixing bacteria, is helping with transplant shock, keeping the plants perky by plugging upwards of 40% of the needed nitrogen in those early stages, so helping keep them happy and healthy during transplant, but then also catalyzing the release of the plant's natural growth hormone, so basically helping the plant to produce more roots, which that's all you want in the early stages from propagation to early veg stages, is healthy and root promotion. So Azos is helping with that, but then in combination with the mycorrhizae, the Mycos is attaching to all of those new roots, growing out beyond them, grabbing that food and water and holding on to it and retaining it until the plant wants it. So it's basically just the most efficient system for nutrient and moisture uptake. So you're really just, if you've got a happy root system, then the plant can run with it and be able to absorb and utilize all of those expensive inputs that everybody's buying to feed their plant and to be the most successful they could be.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. These nutrients do get expensive, so you want to capitalize on them as much as you can. Those like large pumpkin growers that you talked about before, were they like savvy to using beneficials? Like, you've been talking to them a lot. Is this like a new thing for some of these guys? Are they reaching like new levels? There's
some of them that are, I mean, there's a lot of them that they were buying our products from our company before Xtreme even existed. They were buying it directly from the parent company because they knew the benefits of it. Once we started the Xtreme division to where people had more access to it at the retail level, it made it much more readily available for people that didn't have the in with someone that knew the owner of our company type of thing. Right. But even with, I mean, I was reading some emails the other day, people reaching out saying, I love your Mycos. I hit 1,900 pounds on my pumpkin this year. I just realized you have other products. Should I be using the Azos one, or what's this other Versity one that so-and-so that won the pumpkin contest was talking about that someone gave them? So there's Versity is a new bacillus blend product that we've got registered in probably 40% of the states right now. And between protecting against negative pathogens by watering it in the early stages, to solubilizing phosphorus and potassium in the later stages, and really, especially for the giant vegetable growers, using it as a foliar. You get the little food kick from a little kelp and humic in there, but really dealing with early onset of molds and mildews. I mean, I don't know anybody that's ever grown a pumpkin, squash, or anything that didn't have crazy PM all over it. There's just like a systemic thing for them. But yeah, so that new bacillus blend is almost the new top secret product that some of these giant vegetable growers are using and having really great success with.
Yeah, I got to get my hands on that. I was looking at that on your website. I do want to try it out.
I'll ship you out some.
Cool, man. So like, I've been using Mycos for a long time myself. And I've always used the regular Mycos, but now you have the Mycos wettable powder, the WP.
Yeah.
Can you talk about just the differences in that and what people should use and when?
Yeah.
Kind of deal?
It's the WP is the same mycorrhizal species. It's literally just the granular form ground down into that wettable powder form. So for you can't beat direct root contact with our granular Mycos at transplant, but for people that are wanting to add it in the late stages of a compost tea that they're brewing up and want to water in some more, it was always our big outdoor guys that when they're growing in those 400, 600,000 gallon fabric smart pots. they transplant it a couple times, but then there's this massive amount of soil that the roots are still networking out into. So being able to take the wettable powder version, mix it with water, and water it in to those large amounts of soil was the easiest way to maximize the abilities, was to get that network out there, because you're transplanting a 7-gallon into a 500-gallon. That's a lot of soil that doesn't have a root network in it yet. So by watering it in to go along and colonize out is really where the WP came in handy. Or for anybody that just wanted to water it in, or a lot of people love making like a slurry dip for transplanting out of the powder form that you can't do with the granular form. Yeah, but it's the same product. It's just milled down into that other form for being able to be used in different ways besides just direct root contact.
So out of curiosity, if I have a rooted plug coming out of a propagation tray, and then I have the wettable powder, I make this slurry. Can I roll that plug, like kind of roll the root zone of the plug in that, and then plant it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the ways I've always done it. If I'm doing a handful of plants, is literally I'll take whether the granular or the wettable powder mycos, and then some of the powdered azos. I've always just spread it on a plate. Yeah. And if there's some moisture to that plug that's rooted, you can literally just take it and just roll it right along that plate to get full coverage. And you can do that with the granular or the powder form.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So as far as usage in the system, that's what I wanted to ask you. So when I've used mycos and azos in the past, for me, I mix mycos throughout my substrate in the pot, right, in the container, and then the azos I sprinkle into my transplant hole. And that's kind of been the way I've used it. Until recently, and I think this stems from a conversation I had with G, and I started doing batches of the azos, like mixing it and making a solution in our reservoir. Yeah. But I'll only do enough to feed for about like half a day to a day. Yeah. Is that how you would recommend using it, or
yeah, I mean,
how do you?
Direct root contact at transplant is the best way to use it, but for adding more colony to it, you could sprinkle it on at transplant. You could mix it into the substrate, and you can mix it in the res. I mean, if you're doing all three of those, you're going to see the best results, because the more interaction there is, more colony chunks, kind of pockets in that substrate in the pot, is going to work great. So with azos being in that powder form, the wettable powder, you can mix those into the res as long as they're not going to be sitting in there for multiple days. But like you're saying, if it's going to be that half day, that one day, then getting more of that in there is definitely a great way to add to the colony that's already directly in that root zone but hasn't worked its way out into the rest of that pot.
Cool. That's awesome. So you can use both together, the mycos and the azos in the tank if you're mixing them up.
Yeah, I always mix those two products together, whether it's dry transplanting, mixing into a slurry for dipping root systems in, or mixing in with water or tea. Yeah,
I got to do that going forward. All right, that's it right there. So if I'm mixing a tank, or if our growers are using it, do they want other nutrients present with it? Do you want salts together with these products? I'm sure the mycos would be fine. The azos, is that going to react well with?
I mean, ideally on a straight water day, if it is getting mixed into like a res, is the best time. Yes, you can mix it in. Always make sure that it's the last thing. Get your water pH'd, mix your concentrates into the full solution that you're wanting it at, and then add our products. Just so it's at least everything's been diluted down at that point. But ideally, the best time is always just the product directly to roots, or the product with just water, or in like a light tea type of solution. But you can, especially if you've pre-inoculated at transplant and sprinkled it on the roots, then yeah, if your only means of doing it is adding it in with some of the nutrients that are going to get fed in, it's still going to push into that root zone and help expand that colony.
Good to know. You mentioned pH. Is there a target pH that we should be shooting for with these products when using them in that way?
I always joke about it, but literally whatever pH that you've been mixing your stuff that your plant is happy with is within the range of our products. Our products really don't adjust the pH. That's why I always tell people, get it to what you're wanting, what your system, what your process has been with your pH for what substrate you're using and such, and just add our product at the end.
Great.
So your normal ranges is fine. Yeah.
That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy. All right, I have one question from our viewers.
Hmm.
They want to know, what does Azos use for food?
What does Azos use for food?
That was one of the questions. Yeah, what are they? Is there anything, or
So
yeah?
it's similar to mycorrhizae, to where there is things that could be fed in, which is why other companies have come up with food for the biology. But typically it's your classic symbiotic relationship, to where the plant is getting perks from the biology and in turn kicking back carbs, sugars, other things
Yeah.
into the root zone for the
So
biology.
some
Yeah.
of some of these sugar products out there are basically microbe food at the end of the day,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like,
if the biology is not getting everything in that symbiotic relationship from the plant, then yeah, those little tidbits in there are basically going to benefit the biology. But if the ecosystem is working correctly, then basically it's a proper exchange between the biology and the plant itself.
good to know. Good to know. Is there any products that are like an absolute no-no to use with the, like, going back to using them in the tank in our reservoir? Is there anything that they shouldn't be mixed with?
I mean, if you get into your hydrogen peroxides, any of those types of things, and that's one where, if you're, a lot of people have got issues where they've got to do a flush with that to deal with fungus gnats or something else. So that's always one to where, if you have to do a flush with products like that, go ahead and do it. Wait 24 to 48 hours and then hit it with Mycos nasos again. That it's not going to kill off all of the biology in the substrate in that root zone, but it is definitely going to affect some of it. So that's where a proper re-inoculation afterwards, to really just boost that colony back up, if you're having to do that. And most people I know, I mean, if you're having issues with fungus gnats and you're flushing with H2O2 every single day, then you're going to have a lot of other issues, not just with your biology getting killed off.
Right.
But typically, yeah, you can use stuff like that. Don't mix it in the same res, but it's always give it a day or two afterwards, to where that's kind of worked its way out of the system, to where you can then add more of the biology back in to basically boost that colony to what it was before it took that hit from whatever you're using to kill off some of that stuff.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I know that's valuable information for a lot of the people watching. Question I have is regarding like moisture levels dropping. So in the AutoPot, there's a constant moisture level that's present in the pot, and I know that beneficial microbes like fungus and bacteria, they generally like that environment. They proliferate well. They colonize very well. In other scenarios where we have dry backs, and as soil moisture levels fall, how does that affect colonization? Does that hurt? Is this areas where we're in some systems you may re-inoculate, and then the AutoPot you may not? I was just curious on that.
I mean, it's kind of that classic, if the plant's okay in that scenario, to where the plant's not being affected by that dryback period, and a lot of times they actually kind of prefer it, and they perk up from hitting that right up and down. The biology's, once again, it's doing the same thing. I mean, mycorrhizae, literally, you should see some of the ag trials we've got on we did some corn trials in Mexico years ago, where it was basically wettable powdered mycos was inoculated into the root zone of some corn, and they went, I think it's like 23 days without watering the corn down in Mexico, and it was like 40% height difference in the plants, and one was yellow, one was green, because of the moisture retention capabilities of the mycorrhizae. So it's actually holding on to moisture in times of drought periods for helping keep the plant happy with what it needs. So realistically, even with a dryback period, the mycorrhizae is going to be holding on to some of that moisture in case things do dry it back a little bit more. I mean, we've ran crazy trials in our greenhouses where we've like intentionally let plants dry out, and the differences of with and without mycorrhizae on moisture retention it's pretty crazy on what it's capable of helping with. So once again, the mycorrhizae is never forcing food or water to down the plant's throat. It's basically just holding on to it, and as soon as the plant wants it, it's ready to hand it over. So it's not like it's going to keep the soil too moist. It's never what I've had people be like, oh, your mycos worked so well it fried my plants, and it's like, thanks for the compliment on it working too good, but that's not how it
Right.
works. It's going to hold on to it. If the plant doesn't want it, it's not going to do it. Same thing with azos. Like, you're never going to have like, oh, well, do I need to cut back, or what do I do about the azos and the nitrogen fixing going on during flower when I don't want nitrogen? It's making it readily available. It's not forcing it on the plant. So if the plant doesn't want it, it doesn't have to absorb it or take it from the biology.
Right.
It's only just making it available if it needs it.
Okay. Okay. Is there any difference in performance on these products with organic growers compared to more synthetic growers?
I mean, there's a lot of variables that I'd have some questions on for that.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally, sticking with the more organic route is more biologically friendly, I guess. But yeah, with the more synthetic growers, I mean, especially depending on what substrate you're in, like the biology still has a purpose. No, you're not going to get the same results growing in rock wool that you're going to in a 200-gallon fabric pot full of some premium organic soil. But especially if using like azos, like using it during propagation stages, like you're going to see higher success rate and shorter rooting times because you're getting the perks of the nitrogen to keep them happy and promoting the root growth. So for anybody that's growing in a salt-based like rock wool setup or anything like that, or in a more intense substrate like that, rooting times is rooting times. Happy and healthy clones, you're not feeding them heavy salts during propagation, so you can benefit from it there, and that's going to transplant that inoculation into whatever substrate you're going into. Mycorrhizae, we've been selling it to traditional ag for a very long time. Those guys aren't exactly the most organically minded people.
No.
So if the vineyards and traditional ag guys are using it for strawberries, artichokes, everything else, and seeing results with it, your typical cannabis cultivation, everything other guys, like it's not necessarily what you're using, it's just how you're using. Yeah, if you're just going drain to waste with crazy high ppms on your salts, then you're not going to see the same results. But that's the perk of the balance with mycorrhizae, is in an optimal environment you could technically cut back your nutrient feed schedule and see higher results because of the efficiency of that symbiotic relationship with the mycorrhizae. We've got ag data on that, where it's actually like the curve actually peaks higher on like a 18% reduction in nutrients because the mycorrhizae is more efficiently moving that proper amount versus just having to hammer it and hope that the plant's absorbing more than just the 40% that it can take and everything else is just washing out.
That's really interesting. And I know that Mass Ag doesn't play, like they won't spend a penny on something that's not going to be producing results for them and giving them some sort of, you know, the bottom line is the most important thing for them. So that's cool to hear, man.
They're changing a little bit. We're running a lot of in-depth trials with vineyards and traditional ag, especially on that new bacillus blend.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing a lot of benefits from that product in traditional ag stuff. So they're having to change their minds. Our local Monterey County has got a new initiative where they got to cut back on nitrogen runoff in the soil by like 30-40% in the next like 14 months. So they're looking for ways to tweak that up, change what they're doing, because they're basically going to start getting fined and such if they're not cutting back on their nitrogen runoff. So they're looking for things. The local college out of Monterey has been asking us questions about products like ours, nitrogen fixing, that can help subsidize the nitrogen needs, but without having the runoff or the mycorrhizae holding on to the nitrogen and not letting it just run off. So there is a lot of change going on, whether they like it or not, that they're being forced to because of the issues with runoff and such.
That's interesting. I have a lot of people reaching out to us over the last couple of years too, that maybe taking the other angle. They're like, well, can I just eliminate runoff altogether? And then that's where they're like, hey, I heard of your product is zero runoff. So, you know, if they don't want to take that route, they could just not have any. But That's cool, man. Well, look, thank you for all of that, man. Really appreciate it. So much great knowledge. And I know
Anytime.
everybody watching, this has just been blowing up with questions here, but maybe for next time I can hit you with it. One thing I want to let everybody know is that we are going to be including a free sample of Mycos and Azos on any system order and any order over $100 on the website. In addition to that, you'll see all the stores carrying our products over the next couple months as they restock. All those systems will have samples as well. And don't forget, you can find Xtreme Gardening products at pretty much, or not pretty much, every single hydroponic organic store across the country and even outside of the country. Dude, I really appreciate you doing this again. I do want to let everybody know as well, at the last week of October, we were going to be doing an IG Live with AutoPotamus. He's one of our favorite AutoPot growers. He's at the top of the globe, top of Canada, but grows some of the biggest auto flowers we've seen in the system. And he'll be on the last week of October. And our giveaway winner is, hold on, I'm just going to pull that up. So the giveaway winner is at Mama Wanna Q. So I have that. Let me make sure I have that right. Yep. So the winner is at Mama Wanna Q. Just send us a DM and we'll get you hooked up with the AutoPot system and the samples. Chris, man, bro, thank you.
Appreciate anytime.
It's great.
Yeah, thanks
thank
for
you,
having
everybody,
me on.
for watching. Awesome. Bye.
See ya. Oh, shit.